Sure. Heavenly Father, we're so thankful for this opportunity that we have come tonight. God, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for the breath that's in our lungs that you give us. God, we just don't want to take that for granted. We want to live our life for the fullest for you. May everything that we do in this place tonight bring you honor and glory. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Very good.
Roll call, please.
Brandon,
Here.
Sonia, I'm here. Doug,
Here.
Mike,
Here.
Daniel,
Here.
George,
Here.
Daryl.
Here.
All right,
That's everybody.
let's go ahead and get the, January minutes read. We already got us some corrections right off the
Yeah,
bat.
I got a quick copy and pasting. That's all there is to it. All right, meeting was called to order by Daniel at 7. Members present, all but George Dykes. Prayer was Brandon Jones. Prayer, prior minutes read by Sonia. Motion to approve with typo changes by Mike Fisher. Second by Brandon Jones. Approved by all. Treasurer's report read by Doug. Motion to approve by Mike. Second by Brandon. Approved by all. Chief's report, and it was November and December. Read by Jim Bossard. Training is ongoing with monthly topics. 60 calls for the month. Still seeing an increase in overdose cases. December, 2 new hires, 33 hydrants need repairs, 36 calls. Year to date was 980 calls. Engine 2 is in for repairs. We did win the bid for the Honda fire truck. AFG grant will be in by the 25th. No fire recovery fees this month. Motion to accept Chief's report made by Mike, second by Doug, approved by all. No committee reports, old business. Jim reports the new truck will come with more hoses than expected, a new axe and LED scene lights. He presented 2 quotes for transporting the new rig, one for $2,500, one for $3,000. Mike made a motion to accept the bid by Brubaker for $2,500. Daryl second, approved by all. As reported by Daniel, ordinances proposed by the department have been presented to the mayor and under review by the Lakeview attorney. It's anticipated that all 3 will be adopted. The fire department attorney requested to add why the form was being requested to the information request form. We had 1 bid to repair the bedroom for $820. Brandon made a motion to accept, second by Doug, approved by all. New business, Tice Jones presented his Eagle Scout project to install reflective lettering on mailboxes for the homeowners that approve at no cost to the fire department or homeowners. Fundraisers will be held to pay for the materials. Daniel made a motion to allow Chief Harris to reasonably assist Tice with the project. Mike Fisher seconded the motion and all approved. Mike made a motion to donate $150 to Hickman Chapel Baptist Church in memory, capitalized church, in memory of Sherman Oglesby, one of the founding members of the fire district. Sonia Whitaker seconded the motion, all approved. Mike made a motion to clarify that the memorial, and tell me if I got that right or not, the video wasn't real clear. Mike made a motion to clarify that memorial donations would be given to firefighters with 15 or more years of service. Doug will second the motion, all approved. Was that about right, Mike? Okay. LPOA requested that we remove dry hydrants. This request was tabled until the next meeting for Chief Harris's input. Public input, Mary Christensen requested a copy of the dues increase proposal and asked if the county would be collecting the fees and about past due bills. She also asked if ISO had audited yet and how many paid firefighters and volunteers we have. Daniel advised the increases were posted on the website and explained the collection policy. One of them I did not address. I'll get back to it. ISO has not audited yet. As of a few weeks ago, they were in Jefferson County, but we do not have an anticipated date at this time. And again, this was the part where the video was not real clear. At that, I think Jim said y'all had 4 paid and 5 volunteers. I knew the answer was 9 was total. I heard that part in it. Was that?
Sounds about right.
Okay, I just want to make sure because
Could be 6 and 3 now. That's 9.
Well, I heard a 4 and I heard a 5, but it went back and forth several times, so I wasn't real clear on what the final was. But I was gonna make sure, check with you.
You done good.
Okay, all right. Tracy Pearson asked how the fire department would enforce the ordinances. Daniel advised that the city would enforce all that were in the city limits and police jurisdiction. Otherwise than that, the mayor of Lakeview is checking the legalities of who's responsible for what, and those may have an update on that tonight. But she also asked why the door and frame downstairs had to be replaced and if George was replacing the damaged floor. She was advised that the door frame was bent and rusted and all must be replaced as it's one unit. George will most likely repair the floor, but arrangements have not yet been made. Mike Fisher made a motion to go into executive session at 8:04. We were back in session at 8:17. Brandon made a motion to adjourn at 8:18, second by Doug, approved by all.
I got one correction. I think the first page says year-to-date runs. That's a little high right now. I'm not sure.
That was for all of last year.
All of last year. Yeah. Let's put 2022 then
Okay.
on there. And
I can do that.
Any other corrections other than those previously noted?
Don't believe so.
And of course, just to make sure we got it on record, there's corrections to the members present.
Yes.
Steve Johnson is not a member of the board anymore. I was present, and Daryl was also present.
I got it on mine. Like I said, I gotta quit copy and pasting.
And then there, would you make note of the other two corrections you said you had?
I got it on here. I just need to capitalize church.
Well, ain't
And then
other than
add,
typos. Other than typos.
other than typos.
You said you need to add something?
No, I think I got it. I'm gonna go back and double check, but I think I got everything. I wanna make sure everything Mary asked for was on there.
We have a motion to, accept the minutes with corrections.
Make a motion to accept the minutes,
Motion,
read it with corrections.
have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, treasurer's report. Mr. Bolger?
We began the month of January with a combined balance in both accounts of $194,584.79, $119,556.49 in checking, and $75,028.30 in savings. We had $28,501.13 in revenue for the month, and we had $25,751.47 in expenses. Ending balance on both accounts will be $197,334.45, with checking being $122,306.15, and the savings account had no move at $75,028.30. Two things that may jump out at you under software, it's $2,500, and that was because we paid for the ESO, which I believe is an annual fee. And then
Dispatch.
no, it's
The bill.
recording
Post-
software
post.
that we gotta put our runs into.
and the other one, postage is high because the cost of stamps went up, so we were proactive and bought some stamps at the cheaper rate because they're, you can use them for whatever they call that.
Forever stuff.
Forever stamps. That's the only two things that kind of stick out a little bit, and that's why.
So we had a decent jump in delinquent dues coming in too. $6,900 worth.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention for people that's not here and watching the video, this will be tomorrow night. So far since October, we've collected $24,653 in delinquent dues. I think we budgeted around $22,000, so we're a little ahead. And we've got some coming up this month already that are being processed.
We budgeted
20,000, thank you.
Martha, do you have any idea how much of that is coming through, title and assessments, or how much of that is coming through people actually coming in and paying their delinquent dues or responding to letters?
A good portion of that is, this month is 2020, 2021. When I sent out the 2022 bills, I said they're 2020, they're 2021s. So a lot of that is that. We've had a few through the assessments, but we got a big one yesterday. But the biggest part of last month was actual abuse.
Excellent. Any questions from anybody else on the treasurer's report?
Make motion accept the treasurer's report.
Motion on the table, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Chief's report.
Chief's report for January 2023. The personnel recently added 2 more volunteers to our department, and we have 2 more. We'll be interviewing in the next week or 2, provided they pass the background check, subsequent drug test. We'd like to welcome Chris Clements. Chris, stand up. That's a big man right there. All right.
Welcome, Chris.
And Brent Loud, Brent couldn't be here tonight. Both will be taking the Jefferson County Civil Service test soon to begin their career in the fire service. We wish them luck in this endeavor. Also have Kane Sellers, stand up. Kane, went to Homewood, interviewed with them. If he passes his CPAT, he'll be, getting hired at Homewood Fire Department. So these guys, as they follow through this, they're gonna help us out a lot on the back end, working here and doing some fillings as they get through these programs. So all 3 of those guys will be going and doing that. This time, we wanna hand out some awards that are long overdue. Just 3 of them, so if y'all indulge us for a minute. Chief Boss will hand them out to these guys. These guys have worked hard in our department, and we just wanna recognize them tonight. All right, Lieutenant Tyler Doyle won Firefighter of the Year for 2022. He went through rookie school with every other certification as fast as he could, and he moved on and got hired with Terrence Fire Department. He's working for us too. All right, volunteer Kane Sellers, come on up, Kane. He got volunteer firefighter of the year for last year.
K-A-N.
Congratulations, man. You too, Tyler.
What did he get?
Gary Johnson was volunteer firefighter of the year before in 2021, but we were so busy we didn't get to really recognize him, even though he got one. I just told him to hold on to it and be up here tonight, so we want to thank you. Jack Black, he's not here tonight, he's at Hoover Fire Department.
For 21.
Jack won firefighter of the year for 2021, and he couldn't be here tonight. He got hired on with Hoover Fire Department. So it's starting to get around, and we're starting to produce some guys that are moving on to career service, and we got a few more that are interested too. So as those numbers grow, that's what they want to do. I want to push that. If they want to volunteer, that's fine. If they want to do career, that's fine too. So we want to give them another round of applause and thank you.
Do you get a picture to put on the Facebook?
Oh yeah, we'll get a pretty one. All right, I'll finish my report. All right, boys, go to work. Jim, you gotta stay here. Yeah, you'll be fine.
They've been out there. They've been out there 5 or 6
Next thing I want to talk about is grants. The 2022 grants have been submitted for the tanker pumper. We also put in for a 2022 exhaust system removal to hook up to our engine companies to get the exhaust out of our bays. That'll go along with the Gary Sinise grant, which is not posted yet. Both of them will get the carcinogens out of our bays and out of our guys' turnout gear. The reason we're pushing for the Gary Sinise grant to get turnout gear, washers and dryers is, turnout gear has air pockets in it. And those air pockets are created to keep things from collapsing when you're in a fire or you bend your turnout gear and stuff like that. And that stuff gets hot. And we have to clean them, we have to fluff them like a pellet. And I said at length with another chief about this last night, because I didn't know how in depth they went with that. So washing this turnout gear and being able to do that the proper way down the road through a grant is really gonna help us. It's gonna cut down on the cancer probability for the guys down the road. And the exhaust system is definitely gonna help too. So with that, we hope that we hear back from them. You know, those grants will be awarded between June and September of this year coming up. And hopefully we won't hear about them too late like we did last year. All right, maintenance, engine 1303 and 1302 are in service and running well in all respects. They passed pump testing with flying colors. 1301 Han is in service and passed its pump testing as well. It will soon be lettered in the next 2 weeks. It'll have Lake View on there. So good rendering of it. Chief Massar did a good job on that. Chief Massar's update proposal will be brought up during tonight's meeting. I'll let him do that now. This is on some vehicles that we have. Go ahead, Chief.
Is this one you wanna talk about this? So I have the 3 brokerage offers, filled out for Brinley Mountain to sell our 3 trucks. Then what I need from the board is what you wanna sell them for, and then a signature. Bearing in mind that they do charge 10% or a minimum of $500 to do the brokerage for us. The trucks remain here until they are sold, they don't go anywhere. We can start with the old 1301, the International KME. Based on everything that I've looked at and very similar ones that are out there, my recommendation is to ask $35,000. As a side note, one thing I am looking for from you guys is what you want to list it for. And then I would also ask that you make in the motion what you're willing to take for it. Because some of these departments that are gonna put an offer in on these trucks are gonna be offering, they're looking. And they may not have time for us to get a special meeting together and all that other stuff. So what I was looking for was a motion that has what you want listed on the website and paper print material and everything that Brinley Mountain puts out. And then a board member would have the responsibility of saying, okay, well, they offered us this, we'll take it. If that's what you all are willing to do. That would be my recommendation.
You got something, chief?
Yeah, and I'll let y'all finish. I just remembered. What'll happen with that money from the sale of those vehicles will go right back into the savings. And I wish y'all would change the status of that savings account to the capital reserve. It's just a request to change the name to the capital reserve.
It's actually not going back, and say it's gonna go back into the general fund.
General fund? Okay, that's fine too.
For-
I didn't mean to interrupt you, I just remembered that, so y'all go ahead and finish.
So, you're saying that,
Anyway, my recommendation for 1301, which is the International KME, it's a 1994, is 35,000, is what it lists for.
We just gotta figure out our minimum.
And you said
well, the only thing I don't
10%.
know.
10%, 500 minimal. Yeah, we're gonna do one over the
Remember that either on that truck. I really don't like having our, making our minimum a matter of public record. I don't think we have too much of a choice on that if we do it that way.
Can we do it in executive session?
We still have to vote in public though.
No, we still have
I
to
just
vote public.
throwing something out there as I didn't know.
To help y'all out, there is where I came up with that number, on Brinley Mountain website right now, there's a 95 E1 International. It's exactly like this, except instead of KME, it's an E1. Almost the same miles, and they're asking, that's at 50,
That's 45,000.
45. And it's in better shape, in a little bit better shape. don't wanna price yourself out, so somebody looks at it and goes, no, and flips the page.
Brandon, you got any input on those, on that particular truck?
Not particularly, I mean,
It's just a guess.
it is a guessing game. You said that other one was 95?
Yeah, 1 year newer,
They
exact same motor and everything, except it's an E1 body, not a KME body.
They've actually 45 with it.
Yep.
What about 20, 25?
I'd say we stick with 35, like what Jim recommended, and, go from there.
Now, if you're worried about putting what the minimum that you guys would be willing to take on public record, you could also elect a board member to say, you know, if I call you and say, hey, somebody offered X amount, are you all willing to take that? Just a recommendation. I'm just trying to make it that it's not a 3-week process for us to say yes to an offer.
What about just have a special call meeting if we get offered on?
That's the timing. You gotta have,
I mean, can you do that in a week? I don't
I
know.
mean, you can, but it's just a matter of making sure we have everybody in and,
Right.
you know, disclosures and all that stuff. You can, I mean, legally, yeah, you can. It's just a matter of, are we gonna be able to get a quorum together and get everybody in and, you know,
We have to
everything
give
done
3
in a very
days
short
notice that
window.
we're having a meeting.
So, you basically have to be able to schedule it immediately on getting the offer to have the meeting so that we can have the vote and then you have time to turn it back in if it's gonna be done within a week. We could just put a range on, just say a board officer, so that'd be me, Brandon, Doug, or Sonia. Say give them a $10,000 range to make a judgment call on that.
I wouldn't go 10. We're gonna lose 3,500 off of
Yeah,
35,000.
so you get,
Yeah. I'd go no lower than 30.
Okay, so 30, well, across all trusts, like they have $5,000 range then? I'll entertain a motion.
And this is just on that first
This is
one.
on 1301.
1994 KME.
Alright,
1301.
Yep.
Listening for 35, is that what I heard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
We still gotta make the
we
motion.
have a motion first.
I make
already
a,
made a motion to sell them, but let's prove it.
I make a motion that we list the 1994 International with Brindley Mountain for an asking price of $35,000. If I understood,
It's the board officer has $5,000. Leeway to make
say that
$5,000.
again.
Any officer of the board can authorize an offer up to $5,000 less without the need for a special call meeting. Is that, that's a motion?
Mhm.
Alright, motion on the table, we sell 1301, we list it for $35,000. Any board officer has the authority to authorize up to accept an offer up to $5,000 less than $35,000. On that truck, brokered through Brindley Mountain. Second is Darrell Oden. All in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next one, Mr. Jim.
Who seconded it?
The next one is gonna be 1311, which is a 1999 Freightliner with a custom tanker body. Based on all my research that I've done, my recommendation is put our toe in the water with 20,000. I think it's a little steep,
What's the number?
but
It's a
don't know unless you count.
1311.
Brandon, you got anything to say on that one?
think it needs a little bit of repairs, correct?
Gary? 1311, all I need, I got, 1311 needs one part that I've got to try to fix, I got, and, so yes, there's a little bit of work needs to be done to it.
Is that engine work or tank
It-
work?
It's engine work.
Okay. But it is operational.
Yes.
Anybody else got any input?
I'd go with 22 and minus the 10%. With the original $5,000 less.
There are comparable trucks listed for it or sold recently that you have for it?
Yeah, that's where I got that number from.
What were they?
Off of Brindley Mountain website.
What were they going for?
There was one that was 3 years newer, I think, that was going for 20.
That's 3 years newer and didn't need repairs,
Right.
and it was going for 20.
They were listed for 20 and have the same leeway we did 13, on one.
I think I'm gonna go with Mike on that one. I don't think we should push to 22, not when there's a 3-year newer vehicle right there.
Are we gonna fix it before we try to sell it, or is this gonna be known that there's a part that needs replacing?
It probably needs to be fixed.
Not going to be fixed?
It needs to be.
Oh, okay, that's what I was thinking. Maybe not listed until it's repaired?
It should be a third repair.
That's the reason why it's big red. Marking gate.
Do I have a motion from anybody?
I thought Mike's.
I'm talking about the motion. Or just a second.
I thought you were throwing out an idea. All right, so I got a motion on the floor from Mike Fisher that we list that, 1311, right?
Yes.
We list 1311 Brindley Mountain Fire for $20,000. Any board officer can approve and offer up to $5,000 less. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second from Mr. Dykes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. And the last one. This is the pumper, isn't it?
Now, 1320 is the light duty rescue. It's the 2005 Ford with the ready body in the back. Based on what I've looked at, 35,000 to 40,000. There is one very comparable on Brindley Mountain website right now that is 44.5, and that is a reduced price. I don't know what the original asking price was. And that body is immaculate, I like the part.
Plus that motor's been bulletproof too, right?
It has,
Yeah,
it's written down.
yeah. It listed how much?
The one that's on there that I, like I said, has no damage to the body at all, was listed for 44.5, and that was indicated that it was a reduced price. I have no idea what their original one was.
You don't have any information on ones that have recently sold that, do you? Similar trucks that have sold. Brandon, your thoughts?
I mean, since it's been bulletproof, I wouldn't go no lower than 40.
I don't know, we got another one with a reduced price, maybe we skate in under them, we can get a good offer and go to 42 maybe?
Worth a shot.
Come down, but
All they
can't go
do
up.
is.
Yeah.
So what?
Make
You
an
can come
offer.
down, but you can't go up.
That's right, you can go, yeah, that's absolutely right, you can come down.
42.
Yeah. We're still not the most expensive on the road, but we're not giving any money away.
I'll make the motion for 42K, a sale of 1320, the 2005 Rescue, with the same stipulations as the other two on the $5,000 less.
second.
A motion and a second.
Brandon made the motion, I'll second.
Mr. Fisher.
Oh,
Second. Third.
I third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any motion carries, so we've got our,
That is all three of them. The only thing I'll need is you can decide amongst yourselves. I'll need a signature at the bottom of these sheets after the meeting.
all right, we'll take care of that after the meeting. Okay. Anything else, chief?
Yeah, the ladder truck's, gonna be turned into a service truck. After its rear seals are fixed, we'll be doing that here pretty soon. It's pretty inexpensive, we'll let Petro do the work. I really wanna make her a heavy, but we don't have enough people for that yet, and we gotta get a few more things, but, she will be a service truck. I was told by Dean the other day when I talked to him on the telephone that, they turned their ladder truck that had some, mechanical problems as far as the ladder, service truck, they got one.
What do you mean by that, for those of us that have no clue?
Wasn't it?
For those of us that have no clue, what do you mean by that? Make it a service truck?
Hang on, say it again.
What do you mean by make it a service truck?
Well, when you make it a service truck, you add equipment to it in order to get the maximized points for ISO. And we have a ladder truck, the ladder's not useful because of damage prior to 2020.
Okay.
Right? And the expense of that is really big. So we're trying to figure out a way of how to use it best. Well, Dean Harbison, the guy that does our grants, he's got the same issue up there in his fire department in Jasper. So what he did, he's made his ladder truck, gave it some new life, and made it a service truck. They got 320 something points, the max points for outfitting that. I believe if we have enough equipment here to put on that truck to get the max points. So we're still gonna use it. We're just gonna use it as a service truck, and that will save us a lot of money, and we'll be able to use it effectively. And I believe between the two stations here that we have enough, good enough equipment to put on there where we can
Run calls with it?
run specific calls to
Okay.
tactical calls. So, it'll be available. So, that's what we're gonna do with it. Now, the next one's training. Training's been, ongoing through the fire college, subsequent classes in and around town. All personnel have been stepping up their fulfillment and their training requirements. EMS, department ran 68 calls last month. Station 1 had 29 in their area, Station 2 had 28. We ran Green Pond on 2, Abernathy on 9. I didn't get to talk to Captain Jones on this earlier, but Captain Jones, do you have anything for communications you'd like to talk about?
All the radios were serviced, all the handhelds were serviced and some of them had to be reprogrammed because they weren't totally programmed correctly to begin with as far as the Green Pond channel. So, all the channels are aligned to the same, frequency on each radio. And that happened this last week. That's all I have.
We brought up, the last thing was state retirement revisited. I still think that down the road, as we move toward the future, that we need to talk about that issue. We need to get it either in our bylaws or find out from RSA 1 how we need to do that. I would like for one of y'all on the board to contact RSA 1. The study's $1,000 just to do the study, to see what it would cost us in the future to do that. That state retirement is gonna be conducive to hiring some men at this fire department. And I know you guys that are with the department that are on the board, and y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. It will be a lot cheaper in the future to do it now, whether it's now or next year or whenever y'all decide to do it, than it will be on the latter part, because all it does is just keep going up. What's happening is there's a lot of upfront fees, and that scares a lot of cities and communities away from it. But on the backside, it really brings in the EMTs, paramedics, and firefighters to make calls. So, I want y'all to take that and call RSA1 and touch base with them, and see exactly what y'all need to do, because really, y'all gotta make that decision. Okay?
Anybody up here have any real familiarity with that system at all?
I'm in RSA one, but on the education side.
Do you have any real familiarity with how it works, or?
Not the
on
fire,
the
not
administrative
really.
side?
No, not really, I'm just in it.
You just get
But
it.
like I said, I'm on the edge, I know about the education side, I don't know how different it is for the,
There's 3 plans, a general, education, and a trooper.
I mean, I can see what I can find out if you'd like me to.
We just need to get as much information as we can if you wanna go ahead and make those calls.
I'll make it.
I'm also gonna I'll have some discussions with the mayor as well as we.
I do
move forward with our other
agree
stuff.
it is a good thing if we can possibly do it, cause there's a lot of firemen that will,
It's got a lot of money in it,
it is a lot of money but
but I mean,
it
there's
means
a
a
lot
lot
of money
to
in the
the,
fund.
yeah.
The fund's safe.
It means a lot to the firemen that can do it, and that's why, I mean, I have numerous friends that work 24 hours here, and then they work 24 hours here, and they both put into that retirement and everything, and that was why they did it, was because they got retirement on both.
Or they're just bumping up the best of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, or it counts for 3 of the best of the last.
Yeah, they average the last 3.
I do know that.
Mhm.
And what Chief elaborated to, that $1,000 is just for them to go in and see how much it would cost the fire department itself to pay their portion of most firemen pay 7% out of their checks. And then the
We pay
department-
7.5 as
Yeah.
mandatory.
And then I'm not on the state retirement at my fire, we have a private pension, but, they're working to transfer to state, they haven't done it yet, so probably by 2025, so.
Chief, did you have something to add to that?
A lot of the young kids now in the tier system, they're paying the 7 point whatever now. Some of us older guys, I'll be in my last 3 years next year. So we're paying 6. We're under a different system the same way. I mean, they're just paying a little bit more. It's a little bit different for them.
So they have the tier 1 and tier 2 also?
Yes.
Yeah, that tier 2 is awful.
We don't.
Most all the municipalities in Alabama have brought them in under tier 2, but give them tier 1 benefits.
Yeah, it came under,
Legislature.
Governor Bentley and his group, and all that stuff. But anyway, so right there, one more thing, I'll let you go when on the agenda. We're having a lot of requests for birthday parties, Easter bunny stuff for the fire truck. We're gonna do all that stuff. As long as we have the manpower to do it, we're not running a bunch of calls. We're getting requests to do that, and, I'm just gonna go ahead and embrace it, and if we can do it, we're gonna do it. And we'll show up these little places, and like, the grass guy called me the other day, he wanted to know if Easter Bunny could show up in April for a church at 1:30 on a certain day, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna ride the Easter Bunny in there and show off the Easter Bunny. I mean, that's just public relations, and that's something we need to continue to do around here. We got Lakeview Day coming up, I think, on 25th of March, right?
March
Mark?
25th.
Yeah, so it's coming up, and we're gonna be able, like we were last year, we're gonna be out in force again on that. So, other than that, that's all I got.
I got a question for you, Chief.
Sure.
If you had time to think about these, removal of the dry hydrants that we have on the lake.
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, I'd like to.
Short now, I don't know.
I'm not gonna give you a long, I'll give you a simple answer of what we're gonna do.
We don't know
But-
if that's true.
How did that come about in the shortest answer you can give? What happened? What happened?
We don't wanna go down that road.
Okay. So what is there a request to remove them?
Yes,
Okay, I'm not gonna do it.
I say we make a decision tonight that we will not remove a dry hydrant until ISO comes in and grades us on it.
We don't need to remove a dry hydrant, period. That's a massive expense and a huge liability. And you're talking about a buried line that goes into that lake to pump, to access water. And
It's just,
I mean,
it's a PVC pipe.
I mean, it's
not
do we not have a dry hydrant like what the specifications that I've seen are?
no, not like you're talking about.
I've just always been of the school that you don't reduce your water for your fires. You increase, and
That side of the lake is not very well protected on that end of the neighborhood by good water service. When you come up the hill from, is it Allison? When you come up the hill where it splits off 4 ways?
Yeah.
That's about where the hydrants stop at. And there's some back on Kimberly on the right-hand side, but back towards the left, there's
now,
very few hydrants.
do y'all want us to do that personally, or do you
I'm
want the
just-
company to come out and do it? How do you want to do that?
I'm asking because I need to report back.
Cause it comes out of the budget if we do it the other way. And I wasn't prepared for that this year. So,
Is there a problem?
Just need to know something.
I mean,
Mike, I'm putting you in charge of that. You and Captain Jones, y'all can handle that? Well,
I'll handle it, I'll say that.
Well, I know that both of y'all were around when all that went on. I know that Brandon actually, did he work on
Yeah, we worked on all 3 of the hydrants. One of them got tore up by the people that were working on lake number 5. They tore it out of the ground for us, so when they remodeled lake number 5.
it? Okay. I just don't want the liability, but y'all, look,
Understand.
y'all make your decision what you want to do.
We absolutely don't need the liability. I mean, to be going in there and digging stuff up around the lakes. And personally, I don't think they should come out anyway, like Chief said. Why would we take water away from firefighters? And when somebody's house catches on fire, they're gonna feel real stupid when they pull the dry hydrant out and that was when they needed it. And I know it's supposed to be kind of an emergency thing, but you know, it's kind of like carrying a gun or having a parachute. They say you're silly wearing a parachute until you need one and don't have it. Probably the last time you'll ever need it, but you wish you had it. So,
I'll handle it. Carry on.
Yes, sir.
what's the, you say you're looking at having Petro fix that ladder truck?
Yeah, we ran into some issues with Love's.
What kind of money are we talking about when it comes to fixing that truck?
It's, what do you say, it was 75? It's not too bad.
Like $7,500, $75?
$126.
$126.68.
Okay, I was just about to say, 'cause
We got
that ladder truck's been
We got
a,
really good friends
To
over there.
replace it,
We got guys that are
Let 'em do
volunteering,
it.
they work over there.
take it tomorrow.
So,
That price,
That parking lot higher.
that's a good price.
that's what I said, take it
That's what I'm
tomorrow.
saying, that's in the budget.
I just wanna make sure there, cause I mean, that ladder truck's a whole lot like a sunburn on your backside. It bothers us every time we sit down.
Yeah, but she sure is pretty going down the road when you got that bell ring.
Alrighty,
She's a good blocker too.
committee reports.
You
We
gonna
got
motion
anything?
to accept this, do we have to accept
I mean, we
this?
don't have to, we can,
It doesn't matter.
if you would like to.
No, oh, I'm good.
We have any, committee reports? Anything in? I know we've got to look at these, we got some of this stuff that's in new business. Anything from communications we already had from Captain Jones. On old business, I guess we'll start off with, did not get the best in the world out of the city when it came to the ordinances, mainly just because, there was some serious miscommunication there. Our initial, idea was to give the concepts to the city and have them draft it the way they want it, because it would be their ordinance that they have to enforce. And their response was, no, you need to have your attorneys work on it and draft it up the way you want it, and we'll decide whether or not we like it or whether or not we can present it to the community. So we're gonna have to go back and sit down with Chief and sit down with our attorney and put these into a legal, good, solid municipal ordinance format and hand it over to them and see if they will go ahead and pass them. I get the feeling that they are probably gonna balk on the grills, on the grilling, open flame grills on the multi-story structures and whatnot. Apartment buildings, for a couple of reasons. A, because it's really easy to get misconstrued by anybody who can misconstrue it as we're gonna try and take away your grill on your deck, particularly when the city of Lakeview does not have any multi-level structures in it that would, you know,
Well,
qualify
that
that way.
request was for the future.
And it's for the future, and they, you know, like I
The
said, you know,
townhouses-
that was just that's what I get
The
as,
townhouses are.
you're not
just
in the
for
city.
We're in the jurisdiction, no.
It doesn't matter, the city,
Okay.
they're talking about what's within the city.
Okay.
I'm working on that
Oh.
side.
So that might be something to just table for the future, it's largely irrelevant right now anyway, until there's more annexations and more growth in the city. So that one would kinda, I think we need to focus on the burn ordinance and the keys, which of course they had trouble with that because the way we sent it over was worded, it sounded, there was some language in there that sounded like we wanted keys to everybody's house, which is clearly not what was
That's not
intended.
what we're doing.
Clearly not what was intended, and that kinda goes back to the miscommunication of like, hey, town attorney, put this the way you want it so that it's what the city wants to enforce.
You know, that's why we introduced it to the work session, so that they could pick this thing apart and kind of make it their own. So there was some communication, and they came to us, so we're trying to work that out, we'll get it worked out, it's not a big deal. I talked with Chris the other day, and he said, you know, that we'll get there. It's just little things here and there, and we're just trying to help them move toward the future and help us too, and reduce anything that happens, especially in apartments, if they build apartments. Once you get an apartment fire, and she spreads fast, and you get a couple of them from a grill, you'll understand why they was we're trying to pass it for the future, but that's their decision, not ours. Thank you.
No. Another thing is I had some discussions with, Councilman Rowland and, with the mayor, going back to regarding Station 2. We're getting back on that, working on building it out and putting together a comprehensive plan to hopefully come to some kind of agreement where we can get the city to assist us with the build out of Station 2 and to staff transport service. There's a lot of numbers we gotta get for that, but, it's possible that we could bring, transport service to the community with that, so that we have an actual ambulance with paramedics on it that can do, all the, medical service that they need, cause we're woefully ill-equipped to handle anything more than just the most basic medical calls, just cause we're a fire department. So, if we can get the city to, to assist us on that and bring that to the community, and that'll be a huge benefit, because, I mean, let's face it, when we're waiting on North Star out here, you got people that are waiting 30 and 45 minutes for an ambulance to get here. And that's just, with the age of our population, it's just not something that's really tenable. So that needs, we're gonna make that a priority and see what we can do to make it financially feasible. Chief?
That was at their request as well. We'll do anything we can to get the numbers together and get it presented to them in a timely manner. And we'll let them make that decision on whether they wanna go down that road and take on that endeavor.
They're gonna have to take on a lot, because that is a huge money pit.
There's a lot of different ways it can work. It can actually make money.
We don't have to run every single, or transport every single person out of here either. We go there, assess the patient, and decide if the ambulance comes into this area, transport it or not. So we don't have to do that. It's only on critical patients that we would transport. Unless they didn't have an ambulance available, which they don't have an ambulance available a lot of times. I hear it every day, they're on status 0 in the entire county, day in and day out.
They're gonna have to jump in a lot.
That's one of those things where that's, like I said, I think that's a major.
And we will not call ourselves an ambulance company, we are a fire, if anything, a fire rescue.
So you're just talking about contracting?
Well, there's-
Or a city contract to have a unit?
There's a bunch of different ways that it could look out. It could be us running transport and the city helping fund it. It could be the city having their own transport and basically contracting out to us to staff it and manage it. It could be them essentially renting space in our
Fancy
bay
garage.
over at Station 2 and providing a place for their paramedics to stay while they run. There's a lot of different forms it could take. And it's all gonna come down to money and what's practical for the district, practical for the city, and, what's gonna provide area residents with the best response and, you know, the most
Yeah.
bang for their buck, so to speak.
It's a wonderful idea, but I've been in that business and
Yeah, it's,
it can be a bit.
But,
We know those.
the city has access to things like bonds and additional grants and stuff that can help as well. Plus, you know, a tax base. So, if we can get them to help shoulder that burden and provide that additional service, I think that's actually a really important service given the average
Well,
age of our area.
I agree, it's gotta be done right.
So that is where we're at on that. Anybody else have old business?
I got one, we did get a check back in finally from, the damage to the septic tank from the parking lot repair when they drove over it. So that's been reimbursed, $750. Okay, thank you. And where are we at with the bedroom repair? Do we got anybody in here yet? Heard from anybody, Mike?
George, he's next in line, I think.
I talked with Chief about it earlier. He said, go.
Flooring?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other old business? All right, new business, audit, approval for the 2023 audit. That should be, pretty self-explanatory. We need to go ahead and get our annual audit lined up with Mr. Wallace. Martha, do you have the numbers and what his schedule and stuff is on that?
No, I just have to let him know, and just, once y'all approve it, I send him and he tells me that he can come.
Okay, do you have the cost?
Last year it was high because we did 2 years.
I thought we agreed to do every 2 years.
Yeah.
You going back and forth on that?
No, we need to do every year.
I'm just making sure, I thought we had already agreed.
If you're gonna do that, shouldn't it be automatic every year?
We could budget that in every year. We don't have it right now. Actually, we have that in the budget,
And it
don't we?
was I think so. It was 52 last year, but that was for two years.
it'd be a
It'd be
small
about
thing.
2,600.
Then we're prepared for him to come in and audit.
I mean, that's a lot of questions.
Alright, so, want to go ahead and tell her to schedule her audit?
Make a motion,
Be a CPA.
let Martha go ahead and schedule for audit.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, Mr. Fisher and Mr. Dykes. All in favor?
Alright.
Any opposed? Martha, go ahead and get that audit scheduled. Doug, you want to tell us about our banking changes?
Only really one I need to bring before the board. Talked with Casey Young at First US Bank. When we originally had funds in a credit union somewhere, is a CD. We closed that, and when we we ended up opening a savings account at First US for that money, because at that time, a new CD at First US and the savings account was. But right now, our savings account is paying 0.05%, and the current CD rates available to us either could be for 12 or 24 months is 3.5%. If we wanted to move anything into a CD, the amount's up to us. It's just a minimum of $500. So just gonna throw that out there.
We don't have an 18 month.
Mm-mm.
We got the early withdrawal penalties.
I would imagine. I just got the basic information so far.
I mean, given the money situation, I'm really reticent to move a large amount of money into something that's gonna cost us to pull it back out.
Mm.
I mean, it's good because at least you're not keeping pace with current inflation, but you're keeping pace with average inflation, 3.5. But I just don't like the idea that something major goes wrong, that we need access to a large amount of savings and it's not there. We gotta be conscious of our reserves, and we got a truck that had a $35,000 engine rebuild not too long ago. And the last thing we need is something to break down that's extraordinarily expensive at the wrong time.
Should we wait to see how this truck's ordeal comes out and then our, turnout gear? Did you say we was gonna have to buy some turnout gear?
We already have,
That's
Oh,
what we
yeah,
we budgeted for
okay.
Weren't we gonna take some of the proceeds from the sale of this truck to get more turnout?
Are we up to date on all turnout gear?
it. We will be here in a few weeks.
Well, you got,
Brandon, when's
Some
that
of the-
stuff coming in, as you said?
you got some of the new guys that probably need turnout gear that you can't in.
We're gonna take care of it.
I think he said the, 6 weeks from last week.
It's just a few seconds, and yeah, we got some new guys, but we got some stuff up here we have for until we make that decision. Get them in this.
I say wait till we get, see how these trucks gonna turn out, go from there.
Sounds good.
But you want a mission, I don't know, tell everybody how the checks, what they suggest with the check system, or that's something that's.
Which part of that? The scan?
Basically, we'll be processing and scanning all the checks in here. There's a new, isn't there a new state law that says we gotta do that?
No, there's no law.
It's not a law, it's just the bank.
It's a choice.
The First US will give us a check scanner. Martha could scan them at her desk.
It's
And-
gonna save us trips to the bank, basically.
yes, trips to the bank. And basically, and it kind of basically like mobile deposit, and then we just have to keep those checks for a
Excellent.
specified amount of time, until they.
So
Yeah.
basically, instead of us taking them to the bank, we scan them and we put them into a lockbox.
Basically, saves us 10 miles every time we go to the bank. What's that?
13 miles. 13 miles.
13 miles, excuse me, 13 miles. And that's probably what, about twice, maybe 3 times a week,
During billing season, I go every day.
every day.
This time of year, I go 2 times a week. Tuesdays and Fridays.
What do we have here in terms of, and are we just talking about locking file cabinet, or what do we have here in terms of keeping those checks locked away, until such times they can be destroyed?
We have lock and file cabinets. That's where we keep our current blank checks in. Is a lock cabinet only Martha and I have access to.
We start talking about other people's or other people's checks that aren't,
Right.
Might wanna go ahead and get a safe or something for that.
There was a safe approved about 4 years ago already, in the minutes, never was bought.
Well, it'll have to be looked at again, let's get a price on that, or, we wanna approve up
There
to a
is a
certain
fee
amount.
for that, there is a fee for that, so it was $25 a month, I think it was. Right.
That's correct. They give us a scanner. It's $25 a month. But if you look at how much time she's spending out of the office and the trips back and forth to the bank, it would more than pay for itself.
Yeah, she needs to be in front of that computer instead of out riding around.
Oh, we know you go down the road and when you don't see her
I'm
car.
not gonna answer Mike's calls.
What does that $25 do for us? She
Yeah,
scans
well-
the check to the bank,
The electronic deposits,
Yeah.
a month, $25 a month.
I'm not,
I make a motion, we go $25 a month, let her scan them in.
Okay, she scan them, you just send it back to them, give them a check back, cause it don't it clear right then?
yeah, you have to hold it on.
Yeah,
the
you
phone.
We have to hold
For
it
the
for a certain
bank.
amount of
Oh,
time.
okay.
I'll second Brandon's motion.
A motion and a second to approve the use of the, check scanner and the fee associated with it, $25. You ready? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
I'll just on that. I'll get with Casey at the bank to find out, I guess, what their specific rules policy on that retention stuff is before we look at spending too much money.
Take debit cards too,
We can do that.
okay?
Hey, we got an idea about the cost of maybe installing a safe, or how big would
And it shouldn't have to be too big, it just needs to be something that's a little bit more secure than
Yeah.
the locked filing cabinet.
I don't know, you can buy a small gun safe and bolt it to the floor, and if we go with
Well,
Boots or somebody like that, it might be a little bit higher. You can get one for $400 or $500, I would imagine.
Let's hold that part till next
Yeah.
month. I'll follow up with Casey and kind of see exactly, because how long we keep them is going to determine
Yeah.
size one as well.
So we can table that till next month.
Yeah, just
Alrighty, let's see here, we gotta talk about some of these policy reviews. Conflict of interest policy, whistleblower policy, and document retention policy. I believe, wasn't it Catherine who had most of the information on that?
I gave you a copy of.
I got the conflict of interest
Conflict of
policy
interest,
here.
there really wasn't anything for us to pull on the whistleblower policy.
We had a whistleblower policy on the fire side, was that not still in effect?
And it should, and really with these kind of things, when you talk about this, like the IRS list, not whistleblower, but the IRS conflict of interest policy, you're really just supposed to have a written policy in place.
And that's what I'm talking about.
one.
And I'm pretty,
And we need a centralized place for all our policies, because when we stuff like this comes up, we're like, well, we think we have one. Who has it? Where's it at?
it's recorded in.
What'd you do with it?
Which that may be something that we can actually, go into and address when we talk about these contract terms. But, it really isn't, there isn't much to it, we just need to adopt we need to go ahead and adopt formal policies, and we'll put those in place, and we're gonna have to draft those, for, next month. The question is, do we wanna handle this ourselves, or do we wanna get our attorney involved, to help draft these policies? Do we wanna use something like, for instance, the IRS is gonna have, sample policies that can be, they can't necessarily be copy pasted, but they can be taken and, adopted and adjusted.
Honestly, these three policies are, I mean, you can dig a lot of information off the internet and put it together. And then let the attorney just look it over. I wouldn't let her sit there for hours trying to create one for us.
No, absolutely not.
But yeah, definitely let her give us the final stamp of approval.
Who wants to take this on?
Well, I think we got people that work in the office for that.
Yep. Well, like I say, I guess we'll discuss that when we get to these contract terms. Alright, so at this point, we're gonna need to go into an executive session. This might take a while. One of our contract employees is not currently here. Mark, I'm definitely gonna need you to stick around because we're gonna need to bring you in. But we need to, discuss, basically what we've got is a lot of our contract employees are at the end of or are out of contract and have been continuing more or less on like a month-to-month basis. There's some, I guess you could say some gray areas and who's responsible for what and what exactly they're contracted to do and what those expectations are. So we need to hammer out those contract terms with those, employees and then bring that forward to be voted on. So I will entertain the motion.
You won't have public input for you?
I guess we could have public input before that. I think we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Alright, we'll go ahead and do public input first. Just make yourself known and Ms. Christensen?
Richardson, yes. When, to be a member of the fire district, now, you have to be a member of the fire district, I'm asking to vote on, say, like, motions at the annual members meeting, or to vote on a rate increase, like, talking about doing. To be a member of the fire district, you have to be caught up on your current on your dues, correct?
You do, but there's a separation there. To vote bylaws, that sort of thing, you know, in our annual meeting, yes, you have to be a member, caught up on your dues, that sort of thing. However, to vote on dues increases, because it's done by ballot, you just have to be a registered voter who resides in the area. And that is a state thing, that is not that has to do with the way the county has, county laws and how we're organized. So there is a difference there, which unfortunately means that somebody who hadn't paid fire dues in 15 years can walk up there and pull a lever that says, no, don't put us on county bill.
Okay, and to be a board member, qualifications, do they include owning property in the district and living in the district and or living in the district?
Mm-hmm.
Both?
Yeah, is it both? I know you have to be a member.
Yeah. Yeah, live in the district.
But you have to own property
Own
and live
property.
in the district, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you have to be a member of the fire district, yes. You can't just be a resident.
Well, she's asking,
Nah,
do you
that's
have
not
to
what I'm
own
asking.
property?
To be on the board, to be a board member, do you have to pay, do you have to live in the district and do you have to own property in the district and or?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Both, oh yes,
both.
to
And
be
you
a
have to
board
be-
member, to run for board.
Exactly, and you have to be up to date on your fire days, which is required to be a member.
Wow, yeah. And just one thing I'd just like to say, I know we are in, there's a big need for a rate increase and, I guess when we hear the DA says our Attorney General will be having another vote, and I just think that personal insults and disrespect toward members of the district or former board members or former employees really hurt the possibility of the, next vote passing. And just food for thought. Thank you.
Any others? Bing?
Yeah, the vote that you're gonna have on the rate increases,
Yes.
how are people gonna be notified?
Well, there's the legal notifications that have to go out, just like last time. This is something we ran into last time too. We had a lot of people that were yelling that, came out of the blue. Well, there were rules in place that came from the county that said, hey, you can't announce these things too far in advance officially. You can't, you have to lock in your date and then it sets your timeline. So you gotta lock in a date that's within a certain amount of time, I believe it's 2 months, and you have to have all your notifications out 30 days before that. So it gives you a very small time frame unless you're piggybacking off of a bigger election. So unless we end up being, just another amendment for the local area or something that's on one of our, like off your ballot or presidential ballot, when you're doing the special ballot, it gives you a pretty tight timeline. We put all these meetings online. We try to maintain a social media presence and putting this information out there to try and do as much as we can to let people know. We spoke about the last dues increase vote for a full, 2 years?
During a pandemic.
Yeah, during meetings and everything else for like 2 years. And there'd even been a vote previous by, I believe when Miss Sharp was president, we'd even had a vote to raise dues and then found out we couldn't really do it that way. So it's not something that was new, and you had a lot of people that were acting like it came up and bit them in the rear when we'd been discussing it for quite a long time and just nobody was paying attention. People weren't coming to meetings. People didn't pay attention to social media. I'd like to, it'd be great if we could do some kind of send out a postcard type deal. The problem comes into that short time frame that happened with the election. We didn't really have time to get that out, get it prepared and printed, get it sent out to where it would get to everybody in that phase, not to mention be incredibly expensive to do it that way, and to get it there and guarantee that they're gonna get it before the day they're supposed to show up and vote. You get a postcard in the mail 2 days before you're supposed to vote. That doesn't exactly scream you gave us a lot of notice. So we just have to be smarter about seeing if we have an election we can piggyback off of. It's cheaper for the district anyway. We just gotta be a little bit smarter about how we handle that next time. And it's just really tough with the kind of timelines that we were put on by the county.
Well, the next major election is gonna be in 24.
It'll be, primarily March.
Okay, March, okay, in 24. So that's a year away. Are you wanting to wait that long to take the vote for the dues increase?
You'll have multiple voting places for that in that election. That's why we chose to do one election place. And it wasn't any more expensive to do it at one place and having people going up. Well, I think there's 3 different voting polls in this district. So
Well, it is cheaper to piggyback off the bigger
it
election.
wasn't much cheaper.
It was a little bit cheaper.
It's about $1,500, so.
Well, just thinking, the 24, the first primary elections. And I know the radio spots are, a lot of times you can get them to give spots, municipal, donate some time to put out a thing on the radio. People listen to radio, I mean, it's like, maybe not the young people, but those folks.
It's according to when we get permission.
Well, that's the way to go. And, if you could just, a couple of those, public service announcements, that, coming up, you might wanna check with your fire board, you got a possibility of an election to increase your fire dues. And the lady that covered a lot from Lakeview on Channel 42, I forget the lady's name, but she did a lot of good reporting for Lakeview on several things, good and bad. If you get in touch with her, she would be glad to give, I'm pretty sure that she would be glad to say, maybe interview one of
She
the
actually did a
Sure.
TV spot on us going to raise dues and why we needed it.
Yeah.
Interviewed Gary Johnson right over here in Engine Bay, in the Engine Bay, talking about it. I mean, they went through and they looked at old turnout gear and talked about age of trucks and other areas around us. They did a full spot for us on I think it was actually on CBS. Was it CBS that did it? So CBS 32.
Believe me, when we do make a decision,
Situation.
everybody around here get the word.
Let me ask, let me
Yeah, we
poll-
went to sale this week.
Can I poll y'all for just a second?
Sure.
Did y'all hear anything about a dues increase this week in on the radio or on the news
I didn't
for
know.
us?
No?
Or did you hear anything about Cobble Valley?
Yeah, I did.
Cobble Valley's dues increase?
Yeah.
Cause we piggybacked on that one right there. Okay. I was just wondering.
But one other thing we've got to pay, and this is what we're waiting on from the AG, and it's been kind of a pain in the butt. I'm gonna have to talk to Stephanie about that when I talk to her about the ordinances.
It's been over a year.
There's some,
Stick on it, stick on it.
yeah, there is some confusion between the way the county is set up, the way the state is set up, and a few other things about whether or not we can have an election for this purpose again within 3 years of our last vote. All right, and we are waiting on an attorney. The probate judge actually asked for an attorney general's opinion on this, and so did the board. Yeah. So there's some confusion there that we have to have an answer on. Now, it's starting to look like that time will expire before we get our answer anyway. But it's something we definitely need to know, because the last thing we need to do is put forth all the money and time and effort to put something forward and then find out that we can't do it, or that it doesn't stick, or it opens it up to where somebody who doesn't like the result of the vote can challenge it. Because I would have loved to have had another election 6 months after the last one, because we need it.
Let's get on, Dane, but as soon as we find out something, we'll go from there.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, if you can, and
Yeah,
I agree you need it, and,
yeah.
I don't think it's unrealistic the way you've gone about the progression.
Have you seen the proposed ballot from the community yet?
The only thing I've seen is what you have here as far as changing the dues over a period of time.
Yeah,
That's it.
I just make sure
With
you.
up to $200, which $200 for fire dues is not unrealistic at all. So,
I don't know what I've chance to think about it, talk about it rather. I think 10 years is a long time to be locked in. I think it's, the residential's very low increase. I worry that in the next 10 years with all the, the slower, might not be enough. You know what I'm saying?
We tried to go
Really
with-
developed a lot out there.
The committee tried to go with a percentage base of like inflation wise and make it fair and skip a year and go up an increment every 2 years.
That's good.
Yeah.
But do we have to be locked in for 10, is what I'm saying.
What do you mean go more?
No, I'm saying, this vote will be locked in, it covers 10 years span, and I just thought that was awful long time.
I mean, we could have another vote within that 10 years if we saw it getting to the point where it's not enough.
Right.
We could also remember that that committee is a recommendation to the board that is brought to the public. It is not necessarily what will be put forward on the ballot. That is what the committee came up with, and, people from the community said, this is what we're thinking, and we've put it out to everybody so we can get, input like that we can add to make a more comprehensive bill that'll pass.
Well, let's don't get into all that right now.
Okay.
Just pass your
It's
bed,
my
Mama.
bedtime.
No,
I see them.
No, it'll be a bigger meeting, I'm sure, when we announce
But
it,
yeah,
we're gonna
please let
discuss
us
it.
know if you're gonna have a meeting that we're gonna.
Alright, there you go.
And we need people, whether you're emailing through the website or coming in here and telling us, we need people to bring in ideas on these dues. We need that input so that we can add it to what, when we make that determination, we need that input. We can't have people just sitting there being silent, grumbling about this, grumbling about that, and not putting in their 2 cents, so to speak. Because you may have something that's a gripe for you that we look at, it's a blind spot, we agree with it, and your gripe gets taken care of.
David, let's go on, we done.
Yes, Ms. Sharp?
They complain about how much it costs, but I have a house in Altadena that's $461 a quarter. But another thing, they started painting this bridge out here. It's slick when it rains. I want something done about it. Now, not wait. I said something I wanted to do about it, and nothing has been done.
I'll entertain a motion to get some skateboard tape for the ramp out there.
You put some sand in it.
Liability.
Well, Chief hasn't even finished painting it yet.
We ain't gonna have Chief do this.
I'll
I'll entertain a motion that does not have Chief doing the work. We put skateboard tape out there. Seriously, can I?
I'll second that.
Hold on.
Okay.
Today, I got word from the scout pack that they are gonna paint the rest of the deck, put bushes under the deck, and not decorate, but make it look more attractive by spring. But yes, we will get some skateboard tape or something to make the deck safer for
There we-
anybody else.
Well, for anybody, because I don't wanna bust my tail on the thing.
I got some sand. They put that, you put that
Yeah,
sand in.
but it's already been coated, so you
Yeah.
gotta spend another
Okay.
$5,000 on stain.
Joe, sure.
I have a neighbor that fell 2 weeks ago, that broke her hip and her leg. And it took 50 minutes for the ambulance to get here from Tuscaloosa. And there was nobody to come from the fire department, but nobody was in. The police chief came, a policeman came, and a deputy sheriff came. And then it took 50 minutes to get an ambulance. And she's 89 years old.
I'm gonna go on the record again and say, yes, we are shorthanded, and we are trying to get more people in here. They are not beating down the doors to come in to the fire department that's not supportive. So, and that county deputy that showed up is more likely a paramedic that showed up. He's more higher trained than anybody in the department. So,
I can tell you what.
we
that
can't
ambulance
help
is
what
like.
the ambulances do, cause we don't control the ambulances in the county. You wanna talk to the time limit, go to Jerry Tingle and talk to him about the time limit on the ambulance.
My mother was in the ER the other day, and I watched the crew sit there for an hour and a half before they take their patient. That's the ambulance sitting there with the patient on that stretcher inside that emergency room. They wouldn't give that patient a bed.
Well, I had to take my
That's-
daughter to the emergency room at,
and medical
Ricky
was,
the other night, and we sat there 3 hours before they did a CAT scan on her, and there
Oh,
was
yeah.
a man next to us had been there 10 hours.
But I seen that patient on that cot for an hour and a half at least. And I mean, so the crew can't,
The crew can
it's
see.
got
They
every,
can't
you know
do
anybody on,
nothing.
an-
It's
you know anybody on an
nationwide.
ambulance crew, you'll see a line at some of these hospitals waiting, just a line of ambulances waiting to drop off
It's-
patients.
it's nationwide.
To staff.
I tell you what, when I was sick, Brandon came, I had an ambulance right there, they took care of me.
you never know where it's coming from.
7 years ago.
We had a better EMS service back then before they signed the franchise agreement and became the sole service provider in this county. They have totally ruined the EMS service in this county.
That's part of why we need to put a heavy focus on doing whatever it takes to get Lakeview to come to reasonable terms and get that Station 2 up and running, which, I mean, I'm not putting that on Lakeview. I'm not saying that they're being unreasonable. I'm just saying that's gotta be something we have to prioritize. Cause, I mean, really, that's something that I really wanna see myself, is I wanna see better ambulance service in this area. I got a wife who has a pretty bad case of adult asthma. I don't want her having an asthma attack and there not being anybody to take her to the hospital.
I agree wholeheartedly. We run almost 2 calls a day in this district now, average maybe 3 or 4. But there's a lot of older people in this community, there's a lot of sick people in this community.
Oh, yeah,
And
without them.
I truly hate that anybody has to lay on the floor for any point in time. I'm getting older myself, I might fall on the floor tonight.
You know, they had somebody unresponsible on Pleasant Grove Road last week, and they brought an ambulance out of Woodstock. Does Woodstock have an ambulance?
Green Pond.
Green Pond, yeah, Green Pond.
And that's another thing, just to let everybody know that's here tonight and on video. People are saying that other departments are coming here to run our calls. They're not coming here to run our calls. Brookwood is the ALS unit. They get called before we do, because the county has a contract with them to run in case North Star doesn't show up or has a long response time. That's why they are beating us to some of our calls, other than maybe we don't have somebody on duty. So that's just to answer some of the stuff we see on social media and whatnot. I'm not gonna badger back and forth with somebody on social media.
No.
They're not important enough to show up tonight like y'all are, then they can pound them keyboards all day long.
Do we have an update on when the bridge is gonna,
It's still around 2024, I don't know.
that's just next year?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's something else where
Better get
I
cell
totally
phone
agree
lines.
on focusing on getting the other one open, because there's gonna be a time when you can't get across that bridge for probably an hour, regardless of if one of
They'll
that's gonna be
figure
left
something
open.
out, don't worry. They pay big men big bucks down there to figure it out.
Yeah, the brain.
All right, carry on.
You
Next.
can go back way to
Yeah,
Woodstock, you can go around there.
Yeah, you've been.
That's a long way around.
Have the evacuation that time. I mean, you could even go to John's, I even tried that.
Especially if it's school time.
Sorry.
We're talking about going ALS and possibly transporting. How are you gonna get around North Star and their,
Contract.
yeah,
Municipal home rule.
That's it.
It has to go, the city has to be involved, period. Municipalities have home rule. If the city wants to have theirs, so just like fire service or anything else, if Lakeview decided they wanted a fire department, they can take the entire city away from this district like that, because they have municipal home rule.
No, they can't.
Well, there's
They have to
steps.
they have to buy us out.
They have to buy us out, but they can still take it, is what I'm saying. There's municipal home rule. Your municipalities have certain authorities that are stronger than county or state. Because that's just,
That'd be 30 years,
That- that may be the case, but the point is that there's leverage that government entities have that we don't.
The reason Green Pond couldn't do it is because they are a volunteer fire department in Bibb County. But they have come closer in the last year or so than ever before. And they are squeezing in here every now and then because There's not enough ambulances. They run 4 ambulances in the entire county. Maybe 5 sometimes, in the entire county.
They're also committed to the city.
And they are committed to the city, that's true.
That's
They
just
have to
Tuscaloosa
cover the
County in
city
general.
before they cover anybody else.
Yeah.
Because they get money.
City, that's all.
No,
The
city,
city doesn't.
That's what it's.
They give them money.
That's just everything in this county. Everything in this county is weighted to Northport and Tuscaloosa. It's not to bring in outside stuff, but it's part of the reason why most of us didn't like that, that school tax bill. It's like, why? So we can have Tuscaloosa County High get another new football field?
Well,
Because that's what we're gonna get before we get a middle school out here, and I'll believe it when I see
no,
it.
the Lakeview Middle School was on the agenda.
Oh, it's on the
They just
agenda.
They couldn't give us a timeline.
We ain't want.
Well, that timeline's
That's
24.
gone. That's gone.
That's done.
Oh, true.
After the football field.
Okay.
All right, any other public comment?
Mike's gonna turn into a pumpkin.
All right, guys, now, can I get a motion to go into executive session to discuss the contract, terms of
First.
contract employee?
Thank y'all for showing up.
Second,
We appreciate it.
motion, second.
Thank you, everyone. Feel free to stick around for when we come back out. I have a motion and a second on the table to enter executive session at 8:27 PM. All in favor? Aye.
Who made the motion?